You know, whether you work in a bustling office, a noisy factory, or even just from your own kitchen table, there's this invisible framework that's designed to protect you. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the UK's health and safety laws, that whole safety net that catches millions of us every single day. So let's get into it. First up, let's just start with a number, because it really puts everything into perspective. 16.2 billion pounds. Yeah, according to the Health and Safety Executive, the HSE, that's what work-related injuries and ill health cost Great Britain every single year. And look, this isn't just about money, right? It's about real people, lost livelihoods, and a huge strain on our economy. The stakes are incredibly high. So that leads us to the big question, doesn't it? With so much on the line, what exactly is this legal safety net that's supposed to stop these things from happening? How does it all work? Who's responsible for what? And maybe most importantly, how is it keeping up with the modern world? Well, let's find out. To really get a grip on the system, you have to go right back to the beginning, to its bedrock. Almost all modern workplace safety law in the UK is built on this one single, honestly revolutionary piece of legislation that was passed way back in 1974. It's the simple, powerful idea that everything else grows from. It's called the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974, but you'll almost always hear it called HASAWA for short. Now, before this act came along, safety laws were a total patchwork, different rules for different industries. HASAWA completely changed the game. It created these broad, sweeping principles and duties that apply to pretty much every workplace imaginable. The goal wasn't just to write a list of rules, it was to build a whole culture of safety. And this right here, this is the absolute heart of the act. This single phrase sets up what's known as the general duty of care. It basically puts the main responsibility squarely on the employer's shoulders. But the real magic is in the details. See those 4 little words? So far as is reasonably practicable? They change everything. And we're going to dig into what they really mean. But, and this is a big but, this duty of care is not a one-way street. The law is super clear that safety is a shared responsibility. Yeah, employers have to provide safe gear and proper training, but employees have a huge part to play too. You're legally required to take reasonable care of yourself and the people around you, to cooperate with all the safety stuff, and, not mess around with the equipment. It's a real partnership. Okay, so let's circle back to that key phrase, reasonably practicable. What on earth does it mean? Well, think of it like a balancing act. An employer has to weigh how serious a risk is against the cost, the time, and the hassle it would take to control it. So if the risk is, say, a catastrophic explosion, you'd expect them to spend a lot to prevent it. If it's a minor trip hazard, maybe a simple warning sign is enough. It's not about eliminating every single tiny risk. It's about doing what's reasonable to manage the ones that matter. So, HASAWA gives us the big, overarching principles. But how do those broad duties actually become concrete actions in a real-life workplace? Well, that's where a whole bunch of specific regulations come into play, turning that general idea of being safe into actual everyday practice. You can kind of think about these regulations in 2 big buckets, proactive and reactive. On the proactive side, the let's stop it before it happens side, you have things like the Management of Health and Safety at Work regulations. These legally force employers to look for risks, plan for safety, and train their people. Then you've got the reactive side. That's where regulations like RIDDOR come in. RIDDOR is all about what happens after something's gone wrong, making sure incidents get reported so that everyone can learn from them. Now, the absolute cornerstone of being proactive is the risk assessment. And this isn't just good advice, it's a legal requirement. This simple 5-step process makes businesses stop and think. What could hurt someone? Who could get hurt? What are we going to do about it? And the really crucial part is step 5, review. It's not a one-and-done thing. It's a living, breathing process that keeps safety management going. And here's what that looks like in the real world. In a high-risk place, like a construction site, a good risk assessment is literally the difference between a normal day and a disaster. It means planning how to work safely up high, managing huge machinery, and making sure every single person on that site knows the dangers and knows how they're being controlled. Okay, so let's flip to the reactive side. When something does happen, RIDDOR tells you exactly what has to be reported to the authorities. And it's not just about deaths. It covers a whole list of specific, serious injuries, certain diseases that develop over time, and even dangerous occurrences. Those heart-stopping near misses where nobody got hurt, but they easily could have. The whole point is to collect data that helps regulators spot trends and stop it from happening again. Right, so we have the duties, we have the regulations, but what happens if they're just ignored? Well, this framework has some serious teeth, and the consequences for breaking the rules can be severe, and they come down two very different legal paths. It is so important to get your head around the difference between criminal and civil law here. If an employer breaks health and safety law, the state, usually the HSE, can prosecute them. That's criminal law. And the goal there is punishment. We're talking huge fines or even prison time. But completely separate from that, the person who got hurt can sue the employer in civil court for negligence. And that case is all about getting financial compensation for the harm they suffered. An employer can absolutely face both at the same time.
So who's the watchdog in all this? Well, the main enforcer we've been talking about is the Health and Safety Executive, the HSE. They're the government body that investigates incidents, and they can bring those criminal prosecutions against companies and individuals who drop the ball.
And just to show you how serious these consequences can be, look at this number, £6 million. This was a real fine given to an organization after multiple people died because of safety failures. These aren't just slaps on the wrist. The courts take these breaches incredibly seriously, and the financial hit can be devastating for a company. The bottom line is, compliance isn't optional. Okay, but let's be real. The Health and Safety at Work Act was written in 1974. The world of work today looks, well, completely different. So how is this almost 50-year-old framework coping with the challenges of the 21st century? Well, the focus is shifting to a whole host of new and emerging risks. I mean, just look at this list. This really shows how much our idea of health and safety is expanding. We're now talking about mental health as a core safety issue, the unique problems that come with remote working, and even how to manage risks from new tech like AI. The whole concept of what makes a workplace safe is getting so much broader. Just take flexible working. The rise of working from home doesn't just get rid of an employer's duty of care. Not at all. That core principle from HASAWA still applies. Employers are now responsible for risks at home. Everything from making sure your desk setup won't give you a bad back, to managing the risks of isolation and burnout that can seriously impact your mental health. The workplace is now wherever you get the work done. And technology, well, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. It can create new risks, sure, but it also gives us some incredibly powerful new tools for prevention. Companies are using AI to analyze data and predict when a machine might fail before it happens. You've got wearable tech like smart helmets that can detect a fall, or other devices that monitor a driver for signs of fatigue. It's that proactive principle we talked about, but supercharged by modern tech. So as we start to wrap this up, what's the one big idea you should take away from all of this? It's that despite all the changes from the factories of 1974 to the home offices of today, the core principle hasn't changed one bit. Safety isn't just someone else's job. The law sees it as a fundamental duty shared by absolutely everyone, from the CEO right down to the newest person on the team. And that leaves us with one last thought. This whole legal framework is constantly evolving to meet new challenges. The basic ideas, assess the risk, prevent the harm, and learn from your mistakes, those are timeless. So the real question for every employer, and for every one of us as employees, is this. How are we applying those principles, not just to the risks we see today, but to the challenges that are just around the corner?